China has made two moves. First, it has filed a complaint against India at the WTO. This is against Indian subsidies to EV and battery makers. These are minerals used to make automobiles, electronics, and industrial machinery. China controls their supply, and in recent weeks, China has restricted this supply.
Forget soldiers and missiles for a second. The biggest wars of the 21st century are being fought with code, with tariffs, and with the raw materials that power our modern world. And in this new arena of economic warfare, China may have just put India in check. China has started to squeeze India with its most powerful economic tool. It's not a new military threat or another border dispute. It's a set of export rules decided quietly in Beijing that are now threatening to bring production lines to a grinding halt across India. Beijing is targeting the very heart of India's manufacturing and electronics sectors. And this is just the first move. Section 1, the weapon is unleashed. So, what is this powerful economic weapon? It's a group of 17 metals on the periodic table called rare earths. They don't sound like much, but they are the secret sauce in basically everything that makes modern life work. From the magnets in electric vehicle motors and wind turbines to the tiny components that power your smartphone, rare earths are absolutely essential. And here's the problem: China completely dominates this market. It controls around 70% of the world's rare earth mining and a jaw-dropping 90% of the processing and refining. This gives Beijing a virtual monopoly, a chokehold on the global supply of these critical materials. And now, China has decided to tighten its grip. Citing national security, Beijing has slapped strict export licensing requirements on a range of rare earth elements and, more importantly, on the finished rare earth magnets that are vital for high-tech manufacturing. Now, this isn't an outright ban on everything. Instead, they've done something arguably more disruptive. They've wrapped the entire export process in red tape. Chinese exporters now need government approval for any shipment, which creates huge uncertainty, delays, and a supply chain bottleneck that has sent shockwaves through global industries. And the country feeling the most immediate and severe impact of this decision is India. Section 2, the immediate carnage in India. The shockwaves hit India almost immediately. The country's booming electric vehicle industry, a centerpiece of its green energy goals, was the first to feel the squeeze. India's EV sector is critically dependent on China, which supplies over 80% of its essential rare earth magnets. These magnets are the core component in the high-efficiency motors that power modern EVs. Within weeks of China's new restrictions, the alarm started blaring. A report from Jefferies highlighted that Indian companies were already facing big challenges importing magnets, putting EV motor production at severe risk once their current stockpiles run out. This isn't some distant threat. Bajaj Auto warned of severe disruptions hitting by the middle of 2025. And there are serious concerns that major car makers like Maruti Suzuki might have to scale back production of new electric models due to the supply uncertainty. The Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, president admitted the concern for the auto sector was more serious than what was being publicly revealed. India's dream of having 30% of its new car sales be electric by 2030 is now in danger of stalling. Some companies are scrambling for workarounds like importing entire motors from China, but that just creates a new set of problems, including regulatory hurdles and less domestic manufacturing. But the damage isn't just about cars. The Make in India initiative, which was designed to turn the country into a global manufacturing hub, is facing a direct assault. The electronics sector relies heavily on these same rare earth magnets for everything from phones and computers to advanced displays. While no major shutdowns have been publicly confirmed, production lines at major facilities, including those that supply parts for companies like Apple, are now directly in the line of fire. The State Bank of India pointed out a whole list of other vulnerable sectors, including transport equipment, machinery, and construction, all of which need a stable supply of rare earths. This isn't just a supply chain hiccup. It feels like a calculated strike against India's industrial ambitions. Section 3, the why now. Geopolitics and power plays. So why now? What's the play here? You have to look at the bigger geopolitical chessboard. The relationship between the two Asian giants has always been complicated, but tensions have skyrocketed in recent years, especially after the violent border clashes in the Galwan Valley in 2020. While there have been some recent diplomatic talks to smooth things over, there's a deep-seated mistrust that hasn't gone away. China's move is widely seen as a calculated use of its economic leverage. In an age where trade and tech are tools of statecraft, rare earths have become China's trump card. Beijing is showing the world in no uncertain terms that it's willing to weaponize its market dominance to get what it wants. And this isn't just about India. The move is happening against the backdrop of a wider trade war with the United States. By restricting rare earths, China is sending a clear message. Any country that challenges its interests could see its most critical supply chains get cut off. For India, the timing is especially painful. The country is rising as a real alternative to China for global manufacturing, attracting investment from companies looking to diversify their supply chains. Beijing's export controls look like a direct attempt to kneecap its rising competitor, slow India's growth, and remind everyone just how dependent the world still is on Chinese industry. It's a power play, plain and simple, designed to expose India's biggest economic vulnerability at the worst possible time. Section 4. The deeper threat to India's future. The immediate production risks are just the tip of the iceberg. The real threat is much deeper. China's rare earth gambit could derail India's entire industrial future. For years, India has been pushing its vision of self-reliance, or Atmanirbhar Bharat. That vision relies on building a strong domestic manufacturing base, especially in high-tech and green energy. But that dream was built on a shaky foundation, a critical dependency on its biggest strategic rival. Here's the frustrating part. India has about 6% of the world's rare earth reserves, the fifth largest on the planet. On paper, that should be its ticket to independence. But having the raw materials in the ground is one thing. Being able to actually use them is another. The process of extracting rare earths and, more importantly, refining them into the high-purity metals needed for magnets is incredibly complex, expensive, and environmentally messy. This is where China's decades of strategic investment paid off. It doesn't just mine the most, it has near total control over the processing, with a staggering 90% of the global refining capacity. India, on the other hand, has almost no domestic capacity for this crucial step. This processing gap is India's Achilles heel. Without a secure supply of refined rare earths, India's ambitions in defense, aerospace, and renewable energy are all at risk. Key military hardware, from missile guidance systems to radar, all need these minerals. A shortage could cripple national security. The green energy transition, reliant on wind turbines and solar panels, could also slow to a crawl. This crisis has been a brutal wake-up call, exposing a fundamental weakness at the very heart of India's economic strategy. This economic battle has huge implications for the global balance of power. If you're finding this analysis valuable and want to stay ahead on these critical geopolitical shifts, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And let us know in the comments. Do you think India can break free from this dependency, or has China already won this economic war? Section 5. India's desperate race for a counter-move. Faced with this economic pressure, New Delhi is scrambling to put together a response. The Indian government is in crisis mode, holding constant meetings with industry leaders to manage the fallout. The plan is to fight back on multiple fronts, balancing short-term fixes with a long-term play for independence. In the short term, India is on a global hunt for new suppliers. The government is chasing agreements with countries like Australia, Vietnam, and Brazil to find other sources for its minerals. A government-backed company called KABIL has been sent on a mission to acquire strategic mineral assets overseas to lock down supplies. But everyone knows the real long-term solution has to be at home. Recognizing this, India is finally taking real steps to build its own rare earth ecosystem. The government has launched a national initiative to strengthen domestic supply chains and is reportedly planning huge financial incentives to attract private companies to build processing plants and magnet factories. India is also trying to cut through its own red tape by labeling rare earth mining a strategic project to fast-track permits for new mines. And there's a big push for recycling. There's a plan to use incentives to create a circular economy by pulling critical minerals out of electronic waste. Finally, the government is thinking about creating a strategic reserve of critical minerals, just like it has for oil, to shield its key industries from future supply shocks. It's an ambitious, all-hands-on-deck effort, but it's a race against time. Building a domestic rare earth industry from the ground up is a monumental task that will take years of sustained investment, new technology, and incredible political will. So China's decision to weaponize its rare earth dominance isn't just a trade dispute. It's a defining moment in the new great game for economic and technological power. For India, it's a moment of truth, a crisis that has exposed a critical flaw in its ambition to become a global powerhouse. The immediate future looks rocky. Production slowdowns and supply chain chaos are real threats to key parts of the Indian economy. But this crisis could also be the ultimate catalyst. By forcing India to confront its dependency, China may have accidentally pushed its rival to build the very thing it needs to achieve true strategic independence. The road ahead for India is tough and expensive. It has to play a complex geopolitical game to find new partners while taking on the colossal task of building a new industry from scratch. The real question is whether this wake-up call has come too late. Can India turn this crisis into an opportunity, or will it remain stuck in the economic grip of its powerful neighbor? The answer won't just decide India's fate, it could reshape the global supply chains that power our entire world.